I'm 79 years old, and I signed the papers. No one forced me, no one pressured me. My children didn't threaten, the doctors didn't insist. It was my name on the line at the bottom. Robert was my husband for 52 years, and I was the one who decided he would not spend his last years at home. I want to say something before you decide what kind of woman I am. I loved him. I still do. This is not a story about abandonment. It's not about selfishness. And it's not about a bad marriage. It's about something much quieter than that. It's about being tired in a way love cannot fix. When people talk about nursing homes, they talk about safety. They talk about professional care. They talk about doing what's best. I told myself all those things. I repeated them so often they started to sound like truth instead of comfort. But here's the part I never said out loud. When I signed those papers, a small part of me felt relief. And that relief is what I've been carrying ever since. Not the decision, the relief. Because if you've never taken care of someone who is slowly disappearing in front of you, you don't know what it does to a person. You don't know what it takes. And you definitely don't know what it costs. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because when you get to my age, you realize most of life isn't about right or wrong. It's about what you can endure. And that year, I couldn't endure it anymore. Beat. I didn't lose my husband the day he moved into that facility. I lost him long before that. I just didn't admit it yet. It didn't happen all at once. That's what people think. They imagine one big moment, a diagnosis, a collapse, a dramatic turning point. It wasn't like that. It was smaller. Robert forgot where he put his keys. We laughed about it. He called our granddaughter Lucy, which was the name of the golden retriever we had in the 90s. We laughed about that too. For a while, forgetting felt almost harmless, like aging, like something that happened to everyone eventually. The doctor said the words carefully. Mild cognitive impairment. He said it slowly, as if pronunciation made it softer. I remember nodding like I understood. I didn't, because what no one explains is that it's not the forgetting that hurts first. It's the shift. Robert used to be the steady one. He fixed everything. He balanced the checkbook. He knew which fuse controlled which room. And then one day, he stood in the hallway holding a screwdriver and asked me, "What was I doing?" I told him. He smiled, but it was a child's smile, not his. The nights changed before the days did. He started waking up confused. At first it was simple. "What time is it?" Then it became, "Are we late for work?" He had been retired for 15 years, and then one night, at 2 a.m, he stood beside the bed and said, "Ma'am, whose house is this?" He didn't say it cruelly, he said it politely. Like I was a stranger he didn't want to offend. "Ma'am." I lay there for a second before answering. "It's ours, Robert." He looked around the room like he was studying it. Then he nodded, embarrassed. I must be tired. He got back into bed, but I didn't sleep after that because something shifted in me that night. I wasn't just his wife anymore. I was becoming his memory. And memories get tired. I started locking the doors twice. I hid the car keys after he tried to leave one afternoon to pick up his mother. His mother had been gone for 30 years. One morning I found him in the backyard, barefoot, standing at the fence, just staring. "Robert," I said gently. He looked at me and for a moment, just a moment, I saw him, the real him, confused, ashamed, scared. That was worse than the forgetting because he knew something was wrong and he was losing himself while watching it happen. People talk about dementia like it steals a person, but what they don't tell you is that it steals them in pieces. A word here, a name there, a memory you built your life around. And every time something disappears, you tell yourself, it's not that bad yet. It's manageable. I can handle this. And for a while, you can. Until one day you realize you're not living with the man you married anymore. You're living with the echo of him, and you're trying to love both at the same time. There wasn't a single dramatic moment, no ambulance lights, no shouting, no scene where everything collapsed at once. It was slower than that. It was exhaustion, the kind that sits in your bones. Robert began wandering at night. Not every night, just enough to keep me from ever fully sleeping. I would wake to the sound of drawers opening, cabinet doors closing, his footsteps in the hallway. Once I found him standing by the front door with his coat on. "It's cold out," he said. "Dad will be worried." His father had died in 1978. I gently took his hand and told him it was the middle of the night. He looked at me like I was the confused one. That's when something inside me began to fray. I started drinking my coffee standing up because I was afraid to sit too long. I stopped going to church because I couldn't leave him alone. I stopped meeting friends because I never knew what kind of day it would be. People say, ask for help. They don't realize help still means you are the one in charge. You are the one listening for every sound. You are the one who signs every form. You are the one who carries the fear. One afternoon, I was in the kitchen, and I heard the back door slam. I ran outside. Robert was halfway down the driveway, barefoot again. This time he was angry. "You can't keep me here," he said. I wasn't keeping him anywhere. I was trying to keep him safe, but to him I had become the barrier. That night, I sat at the kitchen table long after he fell asleep. I stared at the wood grain like it might give me an answer. I loved him, but I was afraid of him, not because he would hurt me, because I could see him slipping further away, and I couldn't reach him anymore. I called our daughter, Elaine. She drove down that weekend. We didn't argue. There was no dramatic intervention, just 3 people sitting at a table that had seen 50 years of birthdays and holidays. Elaine spoke gently. "Mom, this isn't sustainable." I hated that word, sustainable, as if our marriage had become a business model. "I promised him," I said. "I promised I'd never put him in a home." Elaine reached across the table. "You also promised to take care of him." And that was the part that broke me, because I wasn't sure I was taking care of him anymore. I was surviving him. There's a difference, a quiet one, but it matters. That night, after Elaine left, Robert asked me the same question he had started asking more often. "Are you my wife?" I said yes. He studied my face like he was trying to be polite. "That's good," he said softly. "You seem nice." I went into the bathroom and closed the door, and for the first time in 52 years of marriage, I cried without him knowing why. That was the breaking point, not the wandering, not the confusion, not the paperwork. It was the moment I realized love was no longer enough to keep him safe, and I was no longer strong enough to keep us both from drowning. We toured 3 places. I remember that clearly. The first one smelled like disinfectant and overcooked vegetables. The second was spotless but too quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like waiting. The third had a small garden, not much, 2 wooden benches, a patch of roses that looked like someone was trying very hard to keep alive. That's the one we chose, not because it felt right, just because it felt less wrong. Robert was in a good mood that morning. He thought we were going somewhere for a little while. I didn't correct him. He asked if there would be coffee. I said yes. He asked if we had to pack everything. I said no, just a few things. I folded his shirt slowly. The blue one he liked, the sweater I bought him for Christmas years ago, his slippers. I packed them like we were preparing for a short trip. That's what I told myself it was. At the facility, a woman with a bright smile handed me a clipboard. She explained policies in a calm, practiced voice. Meal times, medication schedules, visiting hours. That phrase lodged itself somewhere deep in my chest. Robert was looking around the room. "It's smaller than I expected," he said lightly. "It's cozy," I replied. We hung his clothes in a narrow closet. I placed his framed photo of our wedding on the small dresser beside the bed. He looked at it. "That's a handsome couple," he said. I smiled. "Yes," I said. They were. When it was time to leave, I stood in front of him for a moment too long. He didn't seem upset. He wasn't clinging to me. He wasn't asking questions. He was simply there, waiting for the next instruction. "I'll be back tomorrow," I told him. He nodded. "Drive safe," he said, just like he had said for decades. That part almost broke me. Elaine hugged me in the hallway. I walked to the car slowly, very slowly. I kept thinking someone would stop me, that Robert would suddenly realize what was happening, that he would call my name. He didn't. The drive home was quiet. The house felt different the moment I opened the door. Not empty, not yet, just paused. His chair was still there, his mug still in the sink, his jacket still hanging by the door, but the air had changed. That night, I slept through until morning. No footsteps, no doors opening, no whispered confusion in the dark. And when I woke up, my first feeling wasn't grief, it was relief. And that relief scared me more than anything else had, because I knew in that quiet morning light that something had ended. Not our marriage, not our love, but the version of us that had survived everything else. And I was the one who closed the door on it. I brought his favorite cookies, the kind with the soft centers he used to pretend he didn't like. He was sitting in a common room, staring at a television that no one was really watching. When he saw me, he smiled, not wide, but enough. That first week I visited every day. I adjusted his pillows. I refilled his water. I talked about small things, the weather, the neighbors, a bird that had landed in the yard. He listened, or at least he looked like he was listening. It felt important to show up, like attendance was proof of love. Then life started creeping back in. Laundry needed doing, bills needed paying, appointments I had postponed for months. I told myself missing one day wouldn't matter, then two, then I switched to every other day, then 3 times a week. No one announces when the distance begins. It just rearranges itself quietly. Robert began changing there. Not dramatically, he didn't decline overnight. That should have comforted me. Breakfast at 7, lunch at 11:30, dinner at 4:30, lights dimmed at 9. He started sitting longer by the window, hands folded, watching nothing in particular. Sometimes when I visited, he seemed surprised to see me. Not confused, just mildly startled, like I had entered a room without knocking. We ran out of things to talk about. It happens faster than you think. When someone no longer remembers shared history, conversation becomes weather and television. Safe, shallow. He would nod politely. Sometimes he would ask, "Do you work here?" He didn't ask it unkindly, just curious. And I would say, "No, Robert, I'm your wife." He would pause, then smile the same polite smile. "Well," he'd say softly, "that's very nice." There were visits when I left early, not because I didn't love him, because I didn't know who to be anymore. I wasn't his partner, I wasn't his caretaker. I wasn't even fully his memory. I was a familiar face he couldn't quite place. The staff began greeting me by name. They were kind. They would say, "He had a good morning," or "He ate well today." Updates, progress reports, as if our life together had become a chart. Once, I watched another woman in the hallway arguing with her father, trying to convince him to eat. She looked exhausted. He looked angry, and I realized something quietly terrible. Robert and I no longer argued. There was no tension left between us, because tension requires two people, and slowly, without either of us announcing it, we were no longer standing in the same place. The distance wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It didn't even feel cruel. It felt practical, efficient, manageable. And that's what made it dangerous. Because one day I drove home after a visit and realized I couldn't remember the last full sentence he had spoken to me. Not a confused one. Not a repeated one. A full, clear sentence. I tried to recall it. I couldn't. That's when I understood something I had been avoiding. You don't just move someone into a home. You begin preparing yourself to let them go, and you do it in inches. There's something people don't admit out loud. I didn't admit it either. Not to my daughter, not to my friends, not even to myself. After Robert moved into the facility, I could breathe, not all at once, but slowly. The first full night of sleep felt like something I had stolen. I woke up and the house was still. No footsteps, no drawers opening, no confusion in the hallway, just silence. And I lay there thinking, this is what rest feels like. I had forgotten. For years, even when I slept, I was listening for danger, listening for movement, listening for the sound of the man I loved losing himself again. And suddenly, I wasn't. I made coffee one morning and sat down to drink it while it was still hot. That hadn't happened in a long time. I took a shower without rushing. I walked into the backyard without scanning for where he might be. There was space again, and space feels like relief. But relief, when someone you love is fading away, feels like betrayal. I remember standing in the kitchen one afternoon, sunlight coming through the window, and thinking, I can do this. I can live like this. And the moment that thought settled in me, shame followed right behind it. Because what kind of wife feels lighter without her husband in the house? I replayed our vows in my head. In sickness and in health, I had meant them. I still meant them. But no one tells you that sickness can stretch so long it reshapes your entire life. Caregiving isn't just love in action. It's logistics. It's constant alertness. It's fear disguised as patience. And when that constant pressure lifts, even a little, your body responds. It relaxes before your heart catches up. I didn't stop loving him. That's the part I need you to understand. Love was still there, but so was exhaustion. And for the first time in years, exhaustion wasn't in control. There were evenings when I sat in his empty chair just to feel something. Guilt, grief, anything that proved I wasn't relieved. But the truth was quieter than that. I was relieved, not that he was gone, but that I was no longer the only thing standing between him and danger. And admitting that felt worse than any judgment someone else could have given me, because it meant I was human, not heroic, not endlessly strong, just human. I used to think love meant carrying everything without breaking. Now I know love sometimes means recognizing when you already have. And still, there are nights when I lie in bed and think, if I had been stronger, would he have stayed home longer? It's a question with no answer, so it just sits there, like the rest of it. It happened on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays used to be our grocery day. Even after he stopped going with me, I kept shopping on Tuesdays. Old habits don't disappear just because memory does. When I walked into his room that afternoon, he was sitting by the window, hands folded in his lap. The light hit his face in a way that made him look almost like himself again. For a moment, I felt hopeful. "Hi, Robert," I said. He turned slowly. He looked directly at me, not through me, at me, and there was nothing there, no flicker, no confusion trying to rearrange itself into recognition, just polite attention, the kind you give a nurse or a visitor. "Good afternoon," he said. His voice was steady, clear. I stepped closer. "It's me," I said softly. He tilted his head, studying my face carefully, like he was solving something delicate. "I'm sorry," he replied after a moment. "Have we met?" It wasn't cruel. It wasn't dramatic. There was no panic in him, just honesty. And something in my chest folded inward. "I'm your wife," I said. I said it gently, almost casually, as if we were discussing the weather. He looked surprised, then embarrassed. "Oh," he said. "Well, that's very nice. Very nice. 52 years reduced to very nice." I pulled a chair closer and sat down beside him. I told him about our house, about the blue shutters he insisted on painting himself, about the trip we took to the coast for our 25th anniversary. He listened the way someone listens to a story on the radio, interested, but not involved. At one point, he reached over and patted my hand. "You seem like a kind woman," he said. That was the moment. Not when he forgot my name, not when he forgot our children, but when he reassured me, when he treated me like someone he appreciated, instead of someone he had built a life with. I didn't cry there. I didn't correct him again. I just sat with him, because correcting him would have been for me, not for him. And I realized something I had been avoiding for months. The man sitting beside me was peaceful. He wasn't searching anymore. He wasn't frustrated. He wasn't ashamed. He was untethered, and I was the only one still holding the rope. When I stood to leave, he smiled politely. "Will you come again?" he asked. "Yes," I said, "I will." He nodded. "Good, it's nice to have visitors." Visitors. I walked down the hallway slowly, very slowly, not because I was weak, because I understood in a way that felt almost sacred, that I had just attended the quiet funeral of my marriage. He was still alive, still breathing, still warm, but the version of him who knew me was gone, and there was no ceremony for that. No flowers, no casseroles delivered to the house. Just a Tuesday afternoon and a polite man by a window who thought I was nice. Robert died in March. Pneumonia. It was quick, they said, as if quick makes something easier to understand. I was there. The room was dim. Machines made small, steady sounds. A nurse adjusted something quietly near the window. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not frail exactly, just distant. I held his hand. It was still warm. For years I had been bracing myself for that moment, imagining it, fearing it. But when it came, it didn't feel dramatic. There were no last words, no sudden clarity, no miraculous return of recognition, just breathing, then less breathing, then none. I whispered his name once, not to wake him, just to say it. Afterwards, someone asked if I needed water. Another person handed me paperwork. There are always forms, even at the end. I drove home alone. The house was quiet, but not in the same way it had been after he moved out. That earlier silence had felt temporary. This one did not. I stood in the living room for a long time. His chair was still there. I sat in it. The cushion had molded to him over the years. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel exhaustion. I felt something simpler, stillness, the kind that doesn't ask anything from you anymore. I had been losing him in pieces for years. That day, there was nothing left to lose, and strangely, that was its own kind of peace. People like to sort decisions into boxes, right or wrong, selfless or selfish, strong or weak. But life doesn't work that way, at least not at my age. Putting Robert in that facility was the right decision. He was safer. He was monitored. He was cared for by people who understood what I didn't. I know that. If I had kept him home longer, something worse might have happened. He could have wandered into traffic, fallen down the stairs, hurt himself when I wasn't looking. I know all of that, and still it hurt. That's the part no one admits. You can make the logical decision and still feel like you betrayed something sacred. You can do what is necessary and still grieve what it costs. Love doesn't disappear when reality steps in. It just changes shape. For a long time, I thought strength meant endurance, that if I loved him enough, I could carry the weight forever. But love is not the same as capacity, and capacity has limits. We don't talk about that. We praise devotion, we admire sacrifice, but we rarely speak about exhaustion, about fear, about the quiet moment when you realize you are no longer helping, you are barely holding on. I used to replay that day in my mind. The clipboard, the signature, the hallway, as if there were some other version of me who could have chosen differently, a stronger version, a braver one. But I don't believe that anymore. I believe I chose what I could live with, not what was painless, not what was perfect, just what was possible. And here's something I understand now that I didn't before. Caregiving is not a measure of love. Staying longer is not proof of loyalty. And relief does not cancel devotion. Two things can exist at once. You can love someone deeply and still reach the edge of what you can endure. I wish someone had told me that. I wish someone had said, "You are not a failure for being human." But people don't say that. They say, "You did the right thing," and they expect that to be enough. It isn't. The right thing can still leave a scar. The right thing can still ache in the quiet. I don't regret loving him. I don't regret the years we had, and I don't regret choosing safety when I had no strength left. What I regret is how long I believed I had to be unbreakable, because none of us are. Not at 20, not at 79, especially not when the person you built your life around slowly forgets your name. The house is quiet now, not heavy, just quiet. In the evenings, I still sit by the window. The light falls the same way it used to when Robert would read the newspaper and pretend not to listen to me talking. Sometimes I say his name out loud, not because I expect an answer, just because I don't want the sound of it to disappear. There are fewer photos on the walls now, not because I took them down, because I don't need them as proof anymore. We were here. That's enough. People ask if I feel lonely. I don't know how to answer that. Lonely suggests something missing. What I feel is complete, not happy, not broken, just complete. We had 52 years. Most people don't get that. And in the end, love wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't heroic. It was small. It was showing up when I could. It was holding his hand when he didn't know who I was. It was signing my name when I had to. And it was letting go when there was nothing left to hold. If you had met us years ago, you wouldn't have seen any of this coming. You would have seen a couple arguing over paint colors, over grocery lists, over whose turn it was to drive. Ordinary things. That's what a life looks like from the outside. Ordinary. From the inside, it's 1,000 quiet choices. Some of them beautiful, some of them painful, all of them human. I don't tell this story so anyone will judge themselves differently, or love differently, or decide differently. I tell it because when you reach my age, you realize most endings are not explosions. They are fades, and if you are lucky, you get to sit in the quiet afterward and know you did what you could, and that has to be enough.